You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. What happens when stress, hormones, and midlife collide, and how can you regain control? Stay tuned for today's insightful episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we explore how women in midlife can better manage anxiety and stress while supporting their overall well-being. Our guest shares holistic approaches to restoring balance, increasing energy, and navigating the stage of life with more ease and confidence. Kavita Sahai is a holistic wellness expert, certified aromatherapist, Ayurvedic practitioner, yoga instructor, and holistic nutrition specialist dedicated to helping women in midlife reclaim their energy, reduce stress, and thrive through perimenopause and beyond. As the founder of Vibes Tribe, a wellness platform designed specifically for women 40 plus, Kavita combines her wisdom with other experts in natural healing modalities with modern science to create practical, effective tools to help you live your best life. Her work has empowered thousands of women to transition through midlife with ease, confidence, and vitality. With over a decade of experience in holistic health, Kavita's journey began when she burned out from a high-pressure career in finance and turned to ancient healing practices to restore her well-being. Now she's on a mission to make self-care simple and accessible for women who have spent their lives caring for others, helping them finally put themselves first. Through Vibes Tribe's membership, courses, and community, Kavita shares the most effective breathwork, nutrition, movement, and mindset strategies to support mental, emotional, and physical well-being. When she's not teaching or creating transformative programs, you'll find her experimenting with herbal remedies, practicing yoga, or exploring the latest research on longevity and optimal health. She lives in Florida with her husband, 3 kids, and her dog. Here is my interview with Kavita Sahai. Hi, Kavita. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because overcoming anxiety and stress is such an important topic that I think we can't talk about enough in this world today. So thank you for joining me today and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to speak with you today on this important topic that I think you're right is especially important in today's world.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's my absolute pleasure to have you here today and dig into this a little bit more on what we can actually do in these situations. And we'll be talking in a bit more of a specific situation, maybe about women in midlife as well. So you'll have some great pointers, I'm sure, and insights to share. So let's start off with a little bit about you and your journey and maybe share with our listeners what brought you here and what it is that you do today.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I actually started in investment banking. So I was in finance and I did, that after that I did private equity and I was essentially working, I want to say 100-hour weeks. In a probably 8-year span, I had maybe 3 home-cooked meals and drank more coffee than water. So you can imagine what that might do even to a young body. And I hit a wall, but it wasn't the kind where the doctors could find out what was wrong. So I was super tired, foggy, moody. I just really cloudy. Like I had Post-it notes everywhere to kind of remind me on what to do. And I thought this couldn't possibly be normal. But every time I went to a doctor, they're like, no, it's normal. You're just an overwhelmed mom. And the truth is that the women's physical and mental health have never been studied extensively. There's never been enough research. And so I started to look for alternate routes. And there happened to be a botanist in town who was doing different types of things with oils. And, I started to go for some yoga. And so I started to explore different modalities. And just through that exploration, within 3 months, I was feeling like my old self. I felt absolutely amazing. And I just thought, this is life. It's not this rat race to the top where you never sleep, but just have a big bank account. It's actually feeling amazing every day. And I think our society normalizes not feeling amazing. And I just decided that that was it. And so through that, I ended up getting certified in aromatherapy, yoga, holistic nutrition. I mean, I went basically all out the other way. And through that, I started to meet a lot of amazing people and experts. And I thought, gosh, there really needs to be a place where they can share this knowledge in bite-sized pieces where, we sort of have this community, right? Because especially for women in midlife, it didn't seem to me that there was a community or a place where they could learn specific techniques tailored to women. Because while it's not studied in science, ancient cultures have forever treated with a lot of respect and knowledge women's body and really respecting their cycles or lack thereof, and what are the different ways that you can be your most vibrant self throughout each phase. And so that's sort of how I got there.
Thank you for sharing your journey. And I do agree that probably in our healthcare systems today in Western medicine, there isn't enough information, enough time, enough resources to really be taken care of in a sense that we need oftentimes, especially as women. And then, of course, when we get to midlife, there are many challenges that get added on top of that. And I'm sure there's also changes, as women experience pregnancy and different kind of phases in life. So it is important to, as you said, honor that and recognize that and find out what we need at those times. I know that a lot of women experience anxiety and stress as you have sort of from a younger age or even when they start their career. But as you mentioned, it could also be that they have not, and this starts in midlife. So this can be quite the shock when it happens and you don't really know what to do. So where do you start when people come to you or they come to your platform, the Vibes Tribe? And this can be really overwhelming because as you found out yourself, where do you even start when you have these weird symptoms that don't make any sense and nobody can tell you what's going on? How do you start your clients off? And what are sort of the first steps that you would guide them to?
Absolutely. So one of the first things, because it's one of the first things I did in my own journey, was the morning routine, right? Because I think if you don't set your day right, it's you either run your day or your day runs you is sort of the saying. And so through this journey, I met this amazing woman, Dannon, and I'll tell you more about her later, but she sort of created this journey around morning routines, which is on the Vibes Tribe platform. But for me, the biggest thing was, and you'll probably laugh, was not snoozing. So I was a big snoozer. But what I learned is actually you don't go into as deep of a sleep after you snooze. It's a light sleep that actually leaves you a lot more groggy. Also, you've kind of immediately, when you think about willpower, you've kind of immediately given the upper hand to the willpower to not do the right thing. Kind of. So you set a time. You're like, this is when I'm going to get up. And then you're already like, I don't need to listen to what I thought was good for me, right? I'm gonna snooze. And so there were many layers to it actually, and she speaks about it a lot more eloquently than I am, but it really was a big deal. And so I kind of following Mel Robbins, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I just do a 3, 2, 1 up. Like no matter what that alarm goes off, I obviously made some decision at night that was the time I needed to be awake, and I got up. And then from there, I've really experimented with some of the different modalities. But for me, a little bit of movement is what wakes me up. So I usually we have a lot of different yoga classes, even chair yoga, but just something to kind of get the body moving and the blood flowing. And I do that for just maybe 5 minutes. And then I'm really big into the Amy Cuddy power pose. because I think when you set your intention for the day, it makes a big difference. But sometimes we say it without believing it. And so when you're in, and if you're not familiar with the Amy Cuddy power pose, it kind of looks like you're Superwoman. And so you kind of just stand there with your hands on your hips and you're just kind of looking at yourself like really powerful. And I think to say your affirmations, whatever it might be, I'm always like, I am calm. I have lots of time. Whatever I feel like maybe I don't have, I'm sort of affirming the opposite. And then I also like to end with a little bit of breath work. And then I usually do a meditation. And there's a lot of different breathwork techniques that she teaches about. But the one that I really like is just inhaling for 4, holding for 4, and exhaling for 8. Because sometimes a longer exhale can really help you lower your cortisol. It calms the body. And then for me, it helps my mind get into a meditative state. But that has been game changing. Like that was one of the most game changing things, because then when, life throws whatever it might throw at you, you are grounded, you are coming from a place of peace. I always compare it to a soda can. You can either be a full soda can, which when someone shakes, it's going to explode, or you can be a half full soda can, which someone can shake and it's okay, maybe gets a little rumbly, but you're not going to explode all over the place.
I like that. That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing these morning routines that you recommend and that you obviously practice yourself as well. I'm curious about morning can be a crazy time. It can also be a very disorganized, chaotic time. So especially if women are, for example, working and they have to get kids ready in the morning, maybe get partner, spouse, or someone out the door, get themselves out the door. I often hear that there's just no time. I can barely even get mascara on before I get out the door. So how do you work with your members on actually fitting this into their morning so that they can have that calmness, that preparedness, that intent for their day when they already feel like they've lost that battle in the morning when they put their feet on the ground?
That's the number one excuse, or not excuse, I should say, but the number one pushback that we hear is, I don't have time, or I always forget, or I don't know what to do. And to the I don't have time, what I'm talking about can take 10 minutes. And for me, it started with 5 minutes. I literally was like, okay, I'm going to do 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. And so really it was like 3 minutes. I was like, I'm going to do jumping jacks for a minute. I'm going to do breath work for a minute. And I'm going to, sit still for a minute. And that was just and then I would experiment. Maybe I would do a minute of affirmations but literally 5 minutes, everybody has 5 minutes. And by the way, I work full time. I have 3 kids and a dog and a spouse that all require help getting out the doors. So I completely understand. And it was one of those things where if you just give yourself 5 minutes, you're going to start to want more. And now for me, it's an hour, but it's only because that became my time and it felt good. Like I felt really energetic and vibrant, and I wanted to try different things. It became my time of exploration. So I would try different breathing methods and see how that would shift the energy in my body. And it became this way to shift energy and really stabilize any emotional and other turmoil I might be feeling in my body. And then also give me such clarity. So I just began to crave it. And I think that once you habit stack and so it's like how do you remember? It's like, all right, when you brush your teeth, you just remember to do this one other thing, like the 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's really great insight. And I think the time that we spend, because this is what I do, the time I spend complaining about the fact that I don't have time, I could have already had the 5 minutes to do exactly what you said. So I think oftentimes it's really just deciding that instead of pushing this off for 5 minutes and saying, oh, I can't do this because I have to do that and that and that, there's your 5 minutes. So just take that time when you get up and do some of the things that you suggested, put some movement in there, put some breath work in there. And I think as the body really starts craving it, as you said, you're going to open up that space, because it's a little bit about prioritizing as well. Maybe some of the things that you put in there all of a sudden don't seem so important anymore to do first thing in the morning, when you realize how good you feel by having this morning routine. So take it from me on this one, who's really great at carving out 5 minutes by not complaining that I don't have time. So I think anyone can add that, definitely. And, if you really don't have the time, then maybe just set the alarm 5 minutes early and give yourself that extra space when you get up. But that's really, really great insight. I love that. So thank you for sharing that.
Feel very accomplished. Like there's a really famous speech by a Navy SEAL who said, all you have to do is make your bed, right? Because it sort of gives you that sense of accomplishment and your room looks clean. So to me, it's that same thing where, right away in the morning, I'm like, good job, a little pat on the shoulder, and that feels good as well. And so it's just all these little things we can do for ourselves. And especially as we touched on in midlife, you might have never experienced anxiety your whole life, but then all of a sudden it does tend to make a lot of women get anxious and feel overwhelmed. If you start these practices, then when you have that feeling come on, you can utilize them. Like I always say, people are like, oh, breath work didn't work. I'm like, well, did you practice it? Or did you just do the one breathing technique and you knew in the moment that you were feeling panic? Because yeah, it's not going to work because you haven't been practicing it. Your body's not automatically attuned to the feeling it's supposed to invoke. But if you do it every day, whatever breathwork practice you decide is the one that you like as your favorite, the minute you have that feeling, you can do it and you'll be calm again.
Yeah. We are creatures of habit in many respects. And this happened to me as well, as that I would try things and it didn't go on the first try because my mind was in a million different places. So it does take a little bit of habituating yourself to actually settling maybe into some more space or into the breath work or into silence or stillness. And that's okay if we give ourselves the time and for our bodies and minds to come along on that journey. It will happen. We just need to have a little bit of trust, I guess, in ourselves as well, that will happen. Yeah, great point. And how do you, members of your community work? Are these live classes or can they work on these techniques whenever they want to? Or how is your community structured and how it supports women in midlife?
So all of our classes are on demand. So we have a platform with hundreds of different classes, just depending on what modality you want to explore. And they are, anywhere from beginner to expert. So you can kind of pick. But we also have a private community where we will do live classes as well on occasion. And every month we do a live event. And Dana, and the coach I mentioned, she usually is the one who leads those events. And she'll always start with some breath work or something. And honestly, she's just amazing. Like every time I'm in there, I'm like, am I supposed to be working? Because I'm just taking all of this in. Enjoying every minute of it. But that's sort of how the community is structured. And we can hold people accountable. So sometimes also women will come in and be like, I'm just not doing it. And we're like, well, just post in this group and we'll help keep you accountable with different challenges. And so I think the real difference is you can get, for example, yoga in a lot of different places, but this is yoga for women in midlife for specific purposes. And right. So it's very thoughtfully curated to be custom for us, because I just felt like there was really no space where that existed.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about what the specifics are of midlife for women, for example? So how would that be different than what we need if we're teenagers or young adults or we're, getting pregnant for the first time or anything, or after, as we're older, maybe 60s, 70s, how does that differ in that midlife period for women? And what is it that you find that your members really need most at this point?
So I think what's really different is really the hormone fluctuations, right? And so, when you're younger, they're a lot more stable. Depending on whether you're getting pregnant naturally or not naturally, your hormones can be, fluctuating quite a bit. And I actually think at that time, a lot of these self-care practices would probably be very relevant as well. But in midlife, we know that you're going to have a decline in hormones. And, we know that feelings of anxiety and overwhelm tend to come naturally. We know that it's harder to lose weight in the sense that what we did before doesn't work. Not that we can't be a super fit version of ourselves or vibrant, because I also think we've normalized like not feeling great because we're older. No, I think you can be the most vibrant, athletic, everything you want, but it can't be done in the same way that someone in their 20s or 30s is doing it. And similarly, to that difference of like 50s to 60s, a lot of it just depends on, again, your hormone fluctuations. And that's very different. I know people who've gotten full menopause in their 30s, and I know women who haven't gotten into it, until they're into their late 60s, right? So, but we know that your hormones are fluctuating during this time, and then there's a decline. And so what I think people need to understand is you can feel as great and look as great and be as great, but the way you do it is just different, right? So that from a self-care standpoint, you really have to prioritize it. There's no choice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what kinds of things are effective at working with these fluctuating hormones? I know that you were mentioning yoga and you were mentioning breath work. Are these the main things that you work with, or what's effective at this time in our lives to really support that self-care and maybe help us balance those fluctuating hormones a little bit better?
So one of the biggest factors is stress, right? So if, and I think there's studies, and that's true of any age, like 80% of all disease comes from stress, but those hormone fluctuations will lead us to more easily being stressed because our body is already under stress. And as far as the modalities, I personally love yoga and breathwork the most, but we have a lot of different ones. And I kind of say it's like exercise. The best one is the one you'll actually do. And so why I like to have a lot of different ones is maybe something else resonates. Like we just had a course on feng shui and declutter for calm. And so some people, not me, but some people really find cleaning in a certain way a meditative stance. Like they actually, it's very calming to them. And once the space is clean, obviously for everyone, that brings a lot of calm and clarity. But also just doing it in a way energetically, according to feng shui, could be really, really great for them. And so again, it's really important to be curious. And I think to be playful and try and just learn about all the different modalities and test. And that's what I really like, because these courses are little tiny bits. And if you want to know a lot more, or dive deeper into the topic, you're welcome to connect with the expert. But, in the meantime, it just gives you the ability to play and try a bunch of different modalities to see what fits you best. But yeah, for me, breathwork and yoga, which is why I think I talk about that more.
Yeah. And I like how individual that is, so that we try one thing and we're not disappointed or giving up if that one thing, for example, didn't work, because there are so many other things in combination that might work for one person and not the other. So important to see what works for you and to find that unique piece that helps you, your body, your mind, your well-being. So that's wonderful that people can try that out. And I'm really curious because we've talked a little bit about what we can do to help ourselves, but what happens if we don't do those things? I'm curious about how that shows up in your members, and what does it look like if we actually are in midlife and we are experiencing hormone fluctuations? How does that affect our lives? What kind of things do we experience? Because some women might not be aware that what they're going through is actually something that they can get help with, something that they can work through, as you said, and be their fittest and best and happiest self. So what kind of things should we be looking out for that could potentially be pointing us to the fact that we need to do self-care in a certain way or work with stress or anxiety?
So I would say some of the most common symptoms are not sleeping well. So whether that means it's hard to fall asleep or you wake up multiple times, that's a huge, huge indicator. Brain fog, overwhelm, anxiety, those are huge indicators as well that there might be some serious hormone fluctuations. Hair loss, that's another one. It can also show up on our body. So hair loss, extra dry skin. It's amazing how much our body can tell us about how we're actually feeling and doing. And a lot of it starts with sort of an emotional center, and then it'll manifest throughout our body. But those are some of the, I'd say, the main symptoms that people will fear. But it really ranges. Moodiness, but sometimes we're unaware that we're moody. But maybe if people are getting annoyed with you, you might know that that's happening. So that's another big tell.
Yeah, I realized that my eyebrows started falling out as I was coming into perimenopause. And this was not something that I was even had on my radar. So I thought that something was extremely wrong with me until I realized it was the hormone fluctuations. But there are surprises that you just aren't prepared for in midlife. And I myself also really enjoy yoga and breath work. And those have been really effective in helping with those fluctuations and restore a sense of balance and calm and wellness in my body. So I definitely appreciate what you're saying. And if there are women listening who are in midlife and they're having these kind of weird surprises that there don't seem to be any physical underlying issues that a doctor has found or blood work has found, then definitely this is, I think, the avenue to go and start exploring on what will work for you to get some help and relief with all of that. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I'm curious because your platform is considered a wellness platform and a wellness community. So is it specific for women in midlife, or do you also offer courses or programs just for women in general, or for women and men, or what is your offering on the platform?
No, it's specifically curated for women in midlife. I think I felt it was a horrendous enough experience that I wanted to give everyone the tools. And so it is specifically, not that I don't think it would benefit others, but that's kind of who we had in mind. And I would say that when we do our calls or in our community, that is generally what you will find.
Yeah. And I don't think there's too many places out there where I've found a specific focus for women in midlife. So I think it's a much needed place for us to go and take care of ourselves. And you did mention that you have the monthly live events as well. Or those are online, I'm assuming, so that all members can participate in that.
Exactly. So we have live events. Everyone can come once for free. So you can kind of check out the community, experience Dannon's awesomeness, as well as, we're usually exploring whatever topic we happen to be launching that month, because we launch new topics every month. And so on our website, there's a link. It's like free ticket. It's an Eventbrite. And yeah, I would love for everyone to join. It's truly a really fun experience.
It sounds like a really supportive and empowering place. So listeners will be linking to that in the show notes. If you want to check out one of those events coming up, feel free to go there and join and see if that community works for you. If you find help in there if you've discovered some of the not so nice side effects of coming into midlife and you're looking for support, it sounds like a wonderful community. And also, you mentioned experts and on-demand courses. So this is something that members can also access then on your platform, is some more in-depth information, maybe on the topics that interest them.
Yeah, so members get access to a platform, as well as we have a bunch of products that we sell at cost that are just fun, that a lot of times go with the classes. Like we have crystal trees and feng shui bracelets, and we sell everything at cost because the pink tax really got me upset. So I call it the pink rebate. So, women can purchase things at a low cost. It's all one membership price at $24.95 a month, but through that you get access to all of it.
That sounds wonderful. Now, we dove a little bit into the morning routine at the beginning when we started talking. Do you have anything that you want to leave our listeners with? Maybe a little thing that they can try as they close out the podcast episode, go on their way. Maybe it's morning or afternoon for them. Anything they can take on their way and actually do as a little exercise or something like that in their lives to test out this self-care that we've been talking about.
Well, I find gratitude to be really helpful. But again, I know sometimes that you don't want to sit and journal or whatever. And so sometimes for me, it's just three things. So I'll wake up and on my way to make my children breakfast or to work, or I find three things that are amazing. So maybe I'll be like, oh, wow, it's so great to have this amazing food. It looks so good. Or, oh, my child is so cute. Or, just three things that you can kind of hold in awe, because I think so often we just kind of just walk through life without really appreciating it. It's sort of my way of saying stop and smell the roses, but instead of the roses, it's whatever that might be in your journey, whether it's getting up or going to bed, but holding that gratitude for whatever you might see in front of you.
That's really great. I love that. I also feel like bringing ourselves back into the present moment by actually looking for things to be grateful for, it can help challenge that brain fog that some of us are experiencing, because I found that it helps me stay in the moment and focus on things that help with the brain fog. So the gratitude is a great suggestion. And as you said, you don't need to journal it. You can also just experience that in the moment. If you're not near a pen or paper or your phone or anything like that, you can still do that. And it's a great way to bring yourself back into the present moment and connect to your mind and body and really submerge yourself in that. So thank you for sharing that. And I will just go over again, or maybe you want to go over just the Vibes Tribe platform and what you offer so that our listeners know how they can connect with you, work with you, check out the community if this episode has inspired them. There may be midlife women who are looking for that support. So how can they connect and what's on offer for them?
It's again, vibestribe.co. So vibestribe.co. And on there is a link on the site. It'll say free ticket and you can join one of our events. Or if you're ready to sign up, definitely get signed up, because on our live events, all members also get free gifts. So again, we're just really here trying to get women to find joy in self-care, celebrate themselves. We're often caregivers for everybody else, but at Vibes Tribe, we really try to take care of you and each other. And that's really what it's all about.
Sounds wonderful. And what's there to say no about when you get a free gift? Wow. That sounds amazing. And we'll be linking to all of these offerings in the show notes as well. So you can take a look there on how to connect with Kavita and Vibes Tribe. And I just want to thank you, Kavita, for being here today and sharing your wonderful platform, your wisdom, your own experiences, and sharing that with the listeners and opening up that door to maybe we talk about this a little bit more because of this episode, and we don't feel so self-conscious or ashamed of what's happening in midlife, because very often these aren't things that we talk about even to our spouses or anyone else. So thank you for bringing us into this conversation, opening the door, and hopefully many, many midlife women are going to join you on that platform and find their own healing there. Thank you so much for being here.
So much for having me.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. And thanks for sharing that. And I wish you all the very best. And listeners, please go connect yourself. You don't have to do this alone. And you don't have to feel any kind of shame or fear of these strange things that keep happening when you come into midlife. And there are a few of them that were really, really strange. So please connect with other women. Find that self-care, because you deserve to take care of yourself. And like Kavita said, be that best self that you want to be in midlife. Thanks so much for joining me today, and take care, Kavita. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejorni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.